Awesome. So without getting yourself in trouble, because you obviously work at a specific dealership, I wanted to talk to you about your experience as a car salesman, because car salesmen are one of those positions that people have all these rumors and myths and lies and everything about how sleazy you guys are, how all the tricks that you can do to try to get them to lower the price, or the tricks that they try to do to get you to pay a higher price. Tell me something, your favorite myth, the thing that you hear about car salesmen that just is not true at all, at least not in your experience anyways.
My favorite myth is that you can always negotiate the internet price. We live in an internet world now, people. No, you can't. That's why it's there, because they want people that live in another state to see their best price possible. It's not negotiable. Not either. Nobody puts their most aggressive pricing out there and it still has $3,000 in markup. It just doesn't work.
So you're saying the price they put on the internet for like that internet price or whatever, that's generally speaking the best price. So would you recommend, I should say, people use that as a comparative measure for other cars on the lot, or other cars of that type anyways?
Now I won't say that there's not any room of motion in that. It's just usually at that point you're talking hundreds, not thousands, So if you're looking at a $20,000 car and you're shopping, if you find one online and it's the cheapest one that you found online, chances are you're not going to find it for another $1,500 off whenever you show up at the dealership. We want to make money, but ultimately we want to earn your business. We're not like, yes, it used to be really, really shady. It also used to be completely unregulated. In 2009, the federal government stepped in on car sales real heavy. And things have changed a lot. I'll be honest, whenever I lived in Valdosta, I would have sworn leasing is the dumbest thing in the world. Why would you ever lease a car? Because it's the only way that you can afford a $40,000 car. So yeah, I mean, I lease, I believe in leasing, but like in a pre-owned market, like when you shop and you spend countless hours shopping for a car online, the chances that you're going to show up at a dealership and they're going to be able to take thousands more dollars off of that price are slim to none.
So do you think that the buyer and the sellers just have a different perspective of what that is? And do you think there would be any value in showing the, what's it called? The price that you paid for it, the dealer paid for it, the dealer's price. You think there'd be value in letting people know exactly how much you're marking it up? Or do you think they want you to cut too much if they're like, oh, you should only make 1% profit or something like that?
Yeah, that's exactly what comes down to it at that point, is that people want to then at that point decide what they feel your profit margins should be, because they understand what the bills of running a dealership are. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Salespeople aren't cheap. People that do all the paperwork aren't cheap. It is very, very expensive to run a dealership. I'm fortunate enough to work for arguably the largest dealer in Dayton.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't even know that it's arguable, but sure. So, but they, I have the opportunity to travel and sell whatever I want, wherever I want to do it, within my auto group. I can take my customers wherever I want, as long as they want to go. But it's just not a thing where we can, what I paid for something doesn't matter. You know what I mean? What I paid for it doesn't diminish the value of it. You know what I mean? It's kind of like you mentioned that you have a property that you own in Ohio. I just listed a house for sale. It's something that in real estate, it's very forthcoming. Anybody can look on my listing and see what I paid for my house in 2016. It was $99,000. That doesn't mean that I don't deserve to list my house for $159,900 like I did last Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
It still demands the money. You know what I mean? But in car sales, for whatever reason, whenever you run a brick and mortar store, they feel like, well, if I know what your profit margins are, I can siphon it out. Well, you can do that, but that's what typically makes car dealerships go under, is that they've been so loyal to customers for so long, and they've allowed these customers to siphon their profits. And ultimately it's what caused the demise of a lot of dealerships. And I mean, like if you were to drive back through Dayton, I mean, I'm sure you remember like hearing ads for Planet Ford, Frank Zadeski. I'm trying to think. I mean, just there's so many different dealerships that have just gone under in the Dayton area. So, and that happens because they don't hold profit, and you have to hold profit. It is crucial. It's not a dirty word. No business in this country is a nonprofit. You know, I mean, there are nonprofit companies out there, but they're not a business.
Well, so there's a couple of things you said that I wanted to talk about, because I had never really thought about it that way, but I think it's a great comparison with real estate, because it is still the value of that particular piece of property or a vehicle, depending on which case you're talking about, and it doesn't change based upon what somebody paid for it. And that's a great comparison, because like you said, you paid $99,000 or whatever for a property, and then you sell it later for $159. It's worth that because of the equity. It's worth that because of the growth. It's worth that because of everything else. And what you're talking about is reverse with vehicles. Vehicles have not lost a depreciable amount of equity from when they were bought. You know what I mean? And part of the reason that a dealer is able to buy it for as low as they do is because they have bulk deals and they have all those other kind of things that go into it. And the reason you get access to that is because you're doing all this constant business, which that individual seller or individual buyer is not going to do. Because I've done that on the
like millions of dollars in marketing.
Mm-hmm. And I've done that on the other side of it. Well, not the other side of it. It's not related at all. With like some other not properties, small items and things that I've sold on Amazon. You know what I mean? You buy them wholesale, but you also have to buy 300, 400, 5,000, whatever it is of them to get that pricing. And then so if I'm trying to make a nickel, per thing, don't try to come and cut my legs out under me and give me, no, you need 2 cents on each one. That's ridiculous. So that's pretty right. Interesting. But I think that, I was going to say, I think that a lot of the things that people have heard about car salesmen are why they feel so vindicated in doing that to them. Do you know of any actual stories of a car salesperson doing something that's super shady? Like, let's just give you an example of something I heard from Valdosta, actually. They locked them into the room. You know what I mean? They locked them into the room and wouldn't let them come out without a deal. Like they left them in there and locked them until they signed the contract or something like that. Now they didn't sign the contract.
Here's my thing with that. So like, okay, it's kidnapping. Like, it's literally kidnapping. Like, yes, there are things within this business where there are people. I mean, it doesn't matter what you're doing. It doesn't matter what business it is, car sales, whatever. There are people in every avenue of life that are going to try to take advantage of a situation and a weak person. So that's wild to me. Like, I can't imagine what I would do if somebody tried to lock me into a room and tell me that I had to sign paperwork to buy something. Like, that's not how life works. Like, I imagine that was at Sunny Honda, huh?
I actually think it was. I do think that's where it was.
I'm not lying. I've worked at the same dealership for 8 years now, Brandon, and I worked at Sunny Honda for 4 hours.
Jeez.
I showed up, listened to a bunch of guys complain about their checks on payday, and I'm like, whoa, this is the day that you're supposed to remember why you have your job. I'm out. But yeah, that place was awful. If I remember correctly, whenever we got to Valdosta, they were actually blacklisted. You couldn't even do business with them in the military. But it's 9 times out of 10, while you're sitting in a dealership, if I tell a customer something, you can Google that and fact check me. So I recommend that people do that. You know, I mean, like, we're for the most part, we're a bunch of people who just aren't really, really smart, who know numbers well enough to be able to talk and are able to know cars. We're not trying to get one over on anybody. Most of us are just trying to feed our families and get as much time off as we can.
See, that's what you need to do for your new sales pitch, is bring in your family, but have them in like just Goodwill clothes that that are all patchy and like have holes and stuff in them. And just show them, like, and then whenever the buyer is trying to be too aggressive, you just turn back to your family. Like, it's all right. We'll eat next week. It's okay. Don't worry about it.
Right.
tell you,
The sad
guilt
thing
trip.
is, though, is that like since I've been doing this, and I mean, like I remember going with other people in the office. I'm not going to drop any names, but I remember going with other females in your office
Mhm.
and going car shopping with them and like trying to help. And I remember blowing deals for them, like literally just like telling the guy like, well, if you're not going to come down and whatever, we'll walk, whatever, like it's mine. You know what I mean? Like it was my, like it didn't matter to me because I have no skin in the game at all. I'm not getting a car. I'm not getting anything. I'm just going in and I'm just trying to show how big and bad at negotiating I am. But
Mhm.
ultimately, I'm not doing any service for the person that I went in there with. Looking back on it now, I'm like, oh man, I really suck as a friend. I helped none. Like, all I did was blue deals for these people. But and it, it's everybody's got that person that thinks they know everything about it. And I get people all the time, well, I sold cars for 6 months back in 1980. Well, like, I mean, if you were good at it or you cared enough, you would have done it for longer than 6 months. Like,
Mhm.
um, I think that car salespeople get a bad rap because of what happened in the 80s and 90s, whenever you couldn't really prove that they were wrong. There's just too many avenues now to fact check things, to you know to cover ourselves and make sure that we are making informed, good decisions financially.
Well,
So
I think there's a period of time when car salesmen, again, whether they behave that way or not, I honestly wouldn't know. I wasn't old enough to buy a car at the time, but they were viewed as like Wall Street brokers. You know how Wall Street brokers are viewed for just lying to sell you whatever they need to, and they thought of car
oh yeah,
salespeople the same way. And again, I'm not saying that no car salespeople earn that reputation, but I am saying that I
right,
don't
no, they
think
did.
yeah, I don't think that that's the average car salesperson you're going to see because, again, like you said, right now, I can look up on my phone and within 5 seconds and tell you the price of a general whatever vehicle. As long as I'm not buying like a Bugatti or whatever
Right.
else, I can tell you what price a car is going to cost. And I know that they know I have that same information. So let's not kid each
Mm-hmm.
other. They know what I'm coming in with. They know what they can actually do, and they try to convince me that to buy it from their dealership based upon either the relationship, based upon some of the other perks they have, or whatever else, or they'll try to beat it on price. That's it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean that's the thing. If you come in and you sit down at my desk and we can talk about something, we can talk facts, and you can show me why you think that you should be able to pay this amount for the car, I'll go to bat for people against my management team with proof and facts all day long. But like yesterday, for instance, I had a guy that comes in, and this guy's, I mean, he's got his stuff together. I mean, he makes $170,000 a year. He's a director of operations for one of the larger health networks in Dayton. He's actually over Miami Valley.
Mm-hmm.
So he, he comes in and he's like, all right, well, I'm prepared to offer you 29,000. Well, my internet price is 29,999. Like I said, I might be able to talk hundreds. I don't got $1,000 in markup on this car. Not doing it. Can't do it. So I just kind of ignore him. Like I'm not even hearing it. Let's do the appraisal on your car. Let's figure out where we're at. Also found out he wanted $15,000 for his trade. Whenever Kelly Blue Book's telling me it's worth 11.7. I show him this. I show him what Carfax says my car is worth. Like, dude, if you've got anything that's better than what I'm showing you, I'll take it to him. But this is what he's going to combat me with. And ultimately, whenever I came back out, the guy realized his numbers were wrong. And again, like I just said, I just proved to this guy that I had shown $11,700 for his trade-in on his car, but I still gave him $14,000 for it. I could have offered the guy 12 and justified it, but we felt that we could sell the car for more and that we felt that it was better in our market, so we gave him 14, simply because we were being fair.
See, and that works out though, because what you're talking about, again, we talked about the relationship of car salesmen to their clientele, and that lets him know, hopefully, if he's smart enough to realize this, in future deals, that he needs to come back to this place to do business because they'll be fair and they're not going to try to just take him any which way they can. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And that's the number one thing in car sales. Like I don't want you thinking that I lied to you. I don't want you mad at me. And ultimately, if you are that before you buy the car, please don't buy the car because I'd rather have a referral than a car deal. I
Mm-hmm.
would. If you're in that bad of a mood, I mean, like a lot of people think that if they come in and they complain about a sales rep, it's going to give them a better deal. And ultimately, whenever you go in and complain about a sales rep, no, you're going to get a bad deal on the car. Ownership's not going to refund you money, but they will fire the sales rep. So really, all you're complaining is doing in an attempt to get a better deal is losing somebody's livelihood. For what? $500? Because you felt like you should have gotten it cheaper? Makes no sense. A little bit of compassion goes a long way.
Yeah. See, now you're asking for compassion for car salespeople, and that's that's a big ask. That's hard. You guys are all soulless zombies, right?
I asked for it all the way around, man. All the way around. Equal opportunity compassion.